If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Our sponsor today at Horse Chats is Online Horse College. If you're interested in a government accredited course, then have a look, Online Horse College. But don't go there now. Listen to Hannah Weston, who's our guest today. Hannah Weston is from Connection Training. She's going to talk to us today about different ways of training horses, a little bit of her background, and hopefully there'll be some learning in it for our listeners. And yeah, I think if you can sort of learn something about horses every day, then you're well and truly in advance. Now, how are you today, Hannah?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thanks for coming, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a long way for you to come, but, over the other side of the world, but the wonders of technology, we can just have a chat and hopefully it'll come out very clear. It sounds very clear now.
Good. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Now, Hannah, I know that you've listened to our podcast. You are one of our listeners, but also we're going to start off with your favourite quote. So what is it today?
Well, there are lots of quotes, no surprises there, but
Sure.
one of my favourites is from Alex Kurland, who was my first clicker training teacher, and she often says, "Go to people for opinions and horses for answers," which I think is a really nice quote because there are so many, there's so much advice and so many conflicting opinions in the horse world. But if you can just ask your horse, then they really know. And it's really something that I've used a lot over the years to keep on developing my techniques and to not get stuck in a specific way of training. So really about, adapting it to the kind of individual horse that you've got in front of you. And one of the things I always say is there are 101 ways to train anything. So go with what works. And really it's about, making your horse happy. So they know, they can really tell you what's right.
And horses will tell you what's right. They don't have like a political opinion or an agenda or thinking about what's going to work for them best in the future. They're saying, well, this is what I want now. This is what feels best now. This is the answer right now.
Absolutely. And it's hard sometimes when that goes against, what you believe or what you're being told. But time and time again, going with what the horse is saying is definitely the best way forwards.
Yep. Now, Hannah, just tell us, you've sort of worked with quite a few different trainers and in quite a few different areas. But one of your first memories as far as learning goes, have you got something there you'd like to talk to us about? When did things all of a sudden start to click with you?
Well, yeah, it was quite an interesting journey. I think it is for most of us. But I think that one of the biggest learning experiences for me was when I finally got my own pony. So after being a absolutely pony obsessed kid at the riding school, I finally got my own pony when I was 11, who's Toby, who's still with me 21 years later.
Wow.
But owning your own horse was so incredibly different to learning at the riding school that he was the one that he was my big journey horse really, and kickstarted so much of my education. And so I suppose that's going back to the quote. The big lesson was about finding things that worked for him. And, that really led me to looking for different people and different solutions and looking at the holistic picture and getting the management right and the body right and the training right. It was all of these bits and pieces coming together to find a way that worked for Toby. And I think as a horse owner, it's, there are so many different areas that we have to look at and be aware of, and it was really Toby that taught me that. So I suppose the learning was about lots of things going wrong and then having to be look outside the box to find other solutions.
Tell us about your train of thought along those lines, because you've come from a dressage show jumping, and a lot of people do that, but then you've gone on and you've done natural horsemanship and clicker, and what is it in you that makes you want to get out there and learn and just learn from everyone and learn everything? And as you say, put it together in a holistic point of view.
Yeah. The learning is the bit that I think is just the most fascinating thing. I think there's so much, there's a lifetime and more that we can learn about horses, and keeping kind of delving deeper and trying to find better ways to communicate, to help them, for our horses to be happier, to be healthier. And so my journey started very much kind of in traditional riding school, and then pony club, and then going through looking at the management side, and then getting into natural horsemanship. And then I found clicker training in 2004, which that was the thing that really kind of changed it for me. And I'm still doing that, changed the way I'm doing it, but it's still clicker training. And I don't know, that when you said about what really kind of drives me to learn is that there just is so much, and the more that you can get all the different pieces together, the clearer everything becomes, and the more solutions that I have for the many different individual horses that I come across. And I find it fascinating as well. That constant education is wonderful, but it's really then got to be put into practice. So it's kind of taking these ideas, and then it's going back to the horses and playing with things and kind of making my own, and keeping the bits that work for me and discarding the other bits. And I really, really enjoy that process.
If you think about all the people that you've learned from and mentors and people that you look up to, what things do they have in common as far as their character traits go? You know, what sort of habits do they have? What do they do that you think is common across all of them, or across most of them?
All of the people that I have learned the most from and really look up to, the most important thing for them is the health and happiness and well-being of the horses. So all of these people are looking at seeing how we can improve our knowledge and our understanding and our techniques to help the horses that are in front of us. And I think for me that's really key, because I absolutely love being with horses, but I want them to love being with me too, and for it to really be that partnership and that communication. And there's something really incredible about being able to open that up between two different species. So for the people I love to learn from, whatever area it is, whether it's, you know, looking at anything from nutrition to bodywork to the way you ride to the tack fitting to the type of training, all of these bits, it's really coming to that core of how can we help the horse and putting the horse first.
Yep. Now, I'm going to ask you, it's sort of almost like, you know, what's the key to this or what's the key to that? And I know there's millions of keys and millions of things that you can learn and millions of things that, you know, we still keep learning about horses. But if you think about, you know, 3 people who've influenced you and 3 top lessons that they've given you, can you think about that? I should have probably warned you before our chat, but I'm sure that you've worked with enough people that you think, right, well, this is a key that I learned from that person, and then another key that you may have learned from someone else. And, you know, as you said, even your first pony, you learn so much about just the horse management and the, you know, putting it all together. So can you think about something like that? And sorry, I've really put you on the spot here.
No, that's okay. I mean, like you say, I think the horses are really the true teachers, and I've learned a lot from them. In terms of people that I have learned specific things from, it's quite hard to pinpoint it down to one or 2 things.
Yes.
I would say going back a few years, I'd say one of my teachers through my teenage years was a pony club teacher, and she was amazing at really making it fun and interesting for both the horse and the human. It was kind of very progressive. You didn't really notice that you were making progress, and yet you would. And that's something that I've really taken to heart through my own training, and really teaching about how to progress with your horse without it feeling like it's in big jumps, that it's kind of just a real natural slow progression. Because what we tend to want to do is get step 1 perfect and then take a big leap onto step 2. And actually, if you can make that progression, you kind of ease forwards a bit, and then you come back and make it easier, and then a bit harder again, and you kind of gradually make progress without it being these big leaps and changes for your horse. And I think that's really really important, and also making it fun and joyful and playful for them as well. So I think that would be one real key.
So you talked about that, and sorry to interrupt, you talked about that with your people, but is that the way you've made it with your horses as well, that it is fun and it is interesting, and that there is that gradual thing, and you don't have to get it perfect, but let's just keep taking all these little steps and moving forward?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I actually meant that about the horses when I was...
I thought it was when you were teaching people, but, if you can make it fun for the horses too, yep.
Yes, trying to teach people how to make that progression with their horses smooth.
Okay,
but of course, it comes into teaching people as well, because we learn in exactly the same way, and we all learn so much better if we're relaxed and we're confident and we're clear on what we're working towards. So the people and the horses are exactly the same, but certainly for the horse training, that kind of steady, fun progress is really important for the horses.
Yeah. All right. Have you got any others that you'd like to say? And
let's have a think. So I learned in terms of the riding piece I learned quite a lot from James Shaw, who teaches Tai Chi for equestrians. And that was at a point in my life when I was having quite a lot of physical issues myself. And my horse was as well. And we were doing lots of other body work and things for him. But he really taught me about the kind of physical connection between horse and rider especially, but also horse and handler. So a lot of my stuff is looking at the kind of mental and emotional connection, how we can engage the horse's minds, how we can, make it clear for them, make it joyful. But it's so important that we look at our own bodies and the way that how we move and how we ride, how that influences the horse too, and really improving our own awareness and feel and sensitivity, and how our horses respond to that. And I think that's another real key piece as well.
Who do you think's the horse that you've learned the most from then, and what did they teach you? When did it sort of start to click that horses are the horses?
Yes. I've learned a lot from every horse that I've met over the years, but I think my biggest teacher is going to have to be Toby, the one I mentioned before.
Okay.
He was really the one that, just took me down different path after different path after different path. So like I said, I was quite young when I got him. I was 11. So I started this journey very, very young, and there's been a fascinating couple of decades. And he started with, just first of all, kind of the usual problems, like kind of not loading and not wanting to go out on his own. And the solutions that were I was being given really weren't working. So then that took me down looking at a different training path, took me down natural horsemanship. And then he was kind of resistant to that, and I'm looking at different trainers and getting softer and softer. And then he threw up physical issues, and it was really kind of finding that. And then in that all kind of, it was looking at, the teeth, the feet, the bodywork, the saddles, all of the different things. And then in 2004, my mum, who's also my business partner, Rachel, she actually came off Toby and broke her back. And so she's got had her whole own experience there. But she, when she was recuperating, a non-horsey friend, went to a charity shop and bought as many horse books as she could to keep her occupied while she was laid up. And one of those was Alex Kerlan's book on clicker training. And without really knowing what I was doing, I just took the concept of, marking the right thing that Toby was doing and rewarding it. And I was absolutely astounded at the change in his attitude and his enthusiasm and his motivation. And that really kind of piqued my interest and made me want to work in that way.
What do you think then is the best thing about horses, the horse industry, working with the people?
I'm just amazed and overjoyed that I get to spend all of my days thinking about, talking about, and being with horses. Definitely. I'm sure a lot of my school teachers who told me to stop talking about horses, didn't think that was a thing. So I, really, really love that. But just one of my favorite things is teaching people, working with. So the way that I see it is that the horse and the human are a partnership. So usually I get people get in touch with me when they're having kind of issues with that. And I love it when I see that they work together, that they've both starting to love their time together, and that they overcome it. And just some people get in touch with me and they're like, my horse now comes cantering up when they see me, or I rode past this and my horse is really confident, or they were whatever it was, whatever their success is, that is just wonderful. It's very rewarding for me.
Good. Now, what about, you've talked about the best things, but what about, thinking about your training, your business, connection training, and the fact that you've brought all these ideas together. So you don't just say, I'm a this coach or a that coach, but you've got quite a few different areas that you've brought horses together. And as you say, more holistic. What do you think the biggest challenge has been? Do people question it when they think you should be more of a purist of one way? Or, can you tell us a little bit more about the actual business of what you're doing?
Yeah, I think you get people from all sides who, everybody has to be confident in what they're doing. So I'm quite happy with that. I actually think that the more we can collaborate, the better. I love what you're doing here. And we've run, back in starting 2012. And if we've run a few clicker training conferences to bring people together who are doing it in different ways. And I think that sharing of knowledge is really wonderful and really important, actually. So yes, there are, obviously you're going to get, people kind of disagreeing with the way that you're doing it and things, but that's fine because they're on their path. And I think we should be sharing our ideas and approaches. I think that probably the biggest challenge for me in terms of the business side is keeping focused on the business side and not just getting distracted by the horse bits, because there is all the stuff about the actual nitty gritty of running a business.
Sure.
That sometimes gets pushed to the side because the horses are more interesting.
You know what? I think that's a huge challenge of most horse people, because most horse people are horse people. That's why they're doing it. They're not necessarily business people. And I think that is a big challenge. Yeah. Okay, now if people come to you and they say, I've got a problem with my horse or a problem with this, do you find sometimes that they come to you with one problem, but you actually find out that there's another problem? That's the underlying cause of that. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, an underlying causes and the types of things that you're finding with either the horses or the people or the connection between the two.
Well, it varies. The specifics vary so much in each situation, but I think that probably the two main underlying causes are a lack of clear communication and fear. On both parts, actually, but specifically on the part of the horse, because horses are fundamentally prey animals. And we all know that, spooking and things is such a big issue. But I think we take them out of their natural environment into their domestic environment, which is very often very difficult for them to cope with. And then we get these huge levels of fear that come up that show themselves in all sorts of different ways, from being scared of being bathed or clipped or the vet, to not wanting to load, not wanting to go out on their own, spooking at jump fillers, or just being kind of generally spooky or reactive. All of these kind of things are looking at general fear. So there might be, often what happens is there's an anxiety in a specific area, but when you look at the whole situation, there's actually quite a lot of underlying anxiety in a lot of different areas. And as you change that to help build the horse's kind of confidence and curiosity and trust with the human, then their confidence grows across all areas, and it gives the two of them tools to be able to stay calm and connected no matter what they face, which I think is really important, because you can't desensitize for everything that you're going to meet. You have to be able to for the two of you to be able to handle whatever you meet in a way, which kind of comes back to the other piece, which is the communication, is how can we make the conversation clearer. I think so many horses, there's all these labels about them being stubborn or lazy or naughty or hot or whatever. I think a lot of the time it's just that they are quite confused. And again, when you break that right down, they really understand what's going on. One of the most extreme cases I had of this was a horse who was new to quite a young girl, and she was fine hacking out, but when they rode her, they didn't have an arena, but when they rode her in the field, she just used to lie down, and she's like, what is going on? And it actually turned out, when we kind of peeled all back the layers, that she didn't really understand the cues for walk, stop and turn. And her response to that usually was just to lie down. So once we explained to her, that problem went away. So yeah, absolutely, all the time it can be something else that's causing it.
Yes, that is a bit of a different one. The lying down. Yeah. And you're right. That like a lot of people want to go to an instructor that's going to teach them confidence and get rid of their fear and underlying anxiety. But sometimes it's the horses, and the horse is fearful. The horse has the fear and the underlying anxiety, and then that in turn gets the person fearful, or sometimes it's the person first and then the horse, and it's just a bit of a snowball, isn't it? Yeah. I like the way that you focus on the horse and their underlying anxiety. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I almost don't think you can separate them because they, as you say, they feed off each other so strongly.
Yes.
But often, so it just depends. But a lot of it's working in that's why I say I often look at the horse and human as a partnership, and it's about staying in the comfort zone of whoever is most anxious. So, because if either of you get anxious, then the communication goes and it's not a fun and enjoyable experience. So it's expanding that comfort zone. But we always go at the pace of whoever is most anxious. And in some cases, most cases it's the horse because there's a lot of anxiety in there. But in some cases it's the human, and we go at that pace too, and that's fine.
Yep. If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now. Have a look. horsechats.com. All right. Now, I know, Hannah, that you've got such an open mind and you're always in for learning, and, you're always being driven to just keep learning more. But what are you looking forward to now? What are you learning about now? What are you doing now? What's have you got for in the future?
Well, coming up this year, to be honest, with my own horses, I'm kind of just enjoying where we're at. So my main two horses are Freckles and India. So they're 10 and 11 now, 1 blood and a quarter horse. And it's really nice to feel that they're kind of just really happy, steady, grown-up horses now. It's been a very we had a lot of learning over the past 10 years with them both. And so I like to do a bit of everything. It's really good to keep their brains engaged. So, we do a bit of hacking out, a little bit of dressage and handwork, got a really like gymnastic groundwork, free jumping, trick training, riding jumping, like just teaching them loads of different bits and pieces, and having a really nice time together is what I'm currently looking forward to this year. So just a little bit of a steady time, but I'm sure my interest will be piqued at something else in the next few months, and we'll go. I'd like to do some of the groundwork a little bit. Yeah. All right. Now, if you'd like to sum up your philosophy into a lesson and just in a couple of sentences, what would you say to our listeners? Just something they can think about and remember you by, and the lesson that you'd like to give them today. I think the most important thing is to begin to look for things that your horse does right. So even just for a day, stop doing the I need more bend, more forward, stand still, stop that, and just look for instead all of the moments where they're doing the right thing, and kind of look for that was a great try, super transition, wow, that moment was amazing. Like just kind of thank you for trying and for communicating and for being here, and communicate that to your horse as best you can. So using a marker and a reward, I think, is the most effective way of doing that. It's really clear, but just, praise your horse, scratch them, and give them a break, give them the odd treat. Just notice those moments when they really step up and try. I think that the two of you should be smiling all through most of your time together. So
I like that.
As you start to look for, and as you look for the good moments, it really starts to make you feel more successful and more joyful and more appreciative. Because I think we are trained a lot of the time to kind of look for the corrections, and that is not necessarily the way to make you both smile. So I think it really changes things as you look for the good bits.
I'm just picturing in my mind, horse and riders trotting along and a huge big smile on the horse's face. A smile on the rider's face, but a huge one on the horse's face. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Hannah, how's the best way for people to contact you? They can go to our website, which is horsechats.com/Hannah Weston, or they can go to horsechats.com, search for Hannah or search for Weston. And they can even go to YouTube and search for Hannah Weston, and they'll probably find you as well, Horse Chats Hannah Weston. But what's the best way for them to contact you directly?
Our website is connectiontraining.com.
Okay, perfect.
And that's probably the best way. There's loads of information on there. And if in the blog, there are quite a few videos and things which feature some of the horses and lessons that I've talked about today as well. So,
okay, good.
Or you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Connection Training too.
Perfect. All right, Hannah, lovely to talk to you, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again sometime soon.
Yes, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com, and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.